The United States dropped the most powerful non-nuclear bomb on Earth, a 30,000-pound GPS-guided weapon called the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, on an Iranian missile complex buried inside a mountain. Then they dropped another one on the same complex. B-52 Stratofortresses followed with additional bunker-busting munitions. B-2 stealth bombers flew round-trip missions of more than 6,000 miles to circle back and strike again. According to Defense Security Asia's verified operational reporting from May 2026, one mountain complex south of Isfahan, the Sofi Mountain missile site, was struck. Nearly 20 separate times during the 2025-2026 U.S.-Israel campaign against Iranian military infrastructure. And every single morning, according to a local resident quoted in that detailed report, we see it get bombed almost every night. We see the smoke rise. Yet when we wake up in the morning, well, it's from these very same mountains that we see missiles. 20 strikes, same mountain, still launching. That is not a statistic. That is a verdict on the limits of the world's most advanced conventional air power. That single image, a mountain absorbing the world's most advanced bunker-busting arsenal, being struck again and again and again, and continuing to function, is the story that the official narrative from Washington did not fully tell. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stood before the U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee April 2026 and delivered a confident accounting of the campaign's results. American forces had struck more than 1,500 Iranian air defense targets, more than 450 ballistic missile storage facilities, and over 800 one-way attack drone storage facilities in the first 5 weeks of Operation Epic Fury alone. All of these systems are gone, he declared. Those words became the official headline. Here is what commercial satellite imagery that anyone with an account at Planet Labs, Airbus, or Maxar can purchase and review, showed happening simultaneously, according to CNN's May 31st, 2026 investigative report. Iran had already cleared and reopened 50 out of 69 tunnel entrances, struck across 18 separate underground missile facilities. Fleets of front-end loaders, excavators, and dump trucks were photographed, operating around the clock in the mountain passes, east of Tehran. In at least 2 confirmed locations, the Iranians had not merely cleared the rubble. They had repaved the access roads that U.S. and Israeli aircraft had specifically bombed to deny launcher trucks the ability to maneuver to firing positions. And beyond the satellite imagery, U.S. intelligence itself, not Iranian state media, not adversarial analysis, assessed that approximately half of Iran's mobile ballistic missile launchers remained intact, despite more than a month of the most intensive conventional bombing campaign the Middle East had witnessed in decades. A separate CNN intelligence summary reported an even starker figure. The U.S. intelligence community estimated Iran retained over 75% of its missile launchers as fully available assets throughout and after the campaign. The ceasefire signed on April 7, 2026, brokered initially under U.S.-Iran direct contact and later formalized through Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's mediation into the June 14th Memorandum of Understanding, did not eliminate the threat. According to reporting from the Wall Street Journal based on satellite imagery reviewed in late July, 2026, Iran has been rebuilding at a pace rapid enough to sustain its strategic confidence, even while ceasefire negotiations technically continue, including rebuilding missile bases struck during the June 2025 Midnight Hammer nuclear facility campaign, and then struck again during Epic Fury in 2026. The same sites, rebuilt twice, struck twice, rebuilt again. This video is the full breakdown. What Iran built underground over 30 years of preparation, what America threw at it, why the physics of the world's most powerful conventional bombs cannot reach what Tehran deliberately built beyond their effective range, and what the strategic implications are for every nation watching this confrontation's results. To understand why the bombs did not achieve what was promised, you have to understand what Iran actually built. The full scope of what Tehran constructed over 3 decades of systematic military engineering is one of the most ambitious underground fortification programs in the history of modern warfare, built from the very beginning on a single foundational strategic assumption. One day, the most powerful air force on Earth would come for it, and when that day arrived, the program had to be alive on the other side. B-roll, Iranian state media footage from March 25, 2025. Generals Bagheri and Hajizadeh riding in vehicle through weapons-packed tunnel, rows of K-bar Shekin, Sejil, Ghadr, and Pava missiles visible on mobile launchers. Iran's underground missile infrastructure, formerly referred to as missile cities by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force, is not a bunker or a collection of discrete, hardened facilities. It is a nationally dispersed, architecturally redundant network of tunnel complexes bored through mountains spread across every region of the country. Iranian authorities have publicly claimed that these facilities exist in every province, independent. Analysts and commercial satellite imagery corroborate significant concentrations in mountainous interior regions. Isfahan, Markazi, Khuzestan, Loristan, and Semnan provinces are the most heavily documented. The strategic logic of this geographic dispersal is fundamental to the entire concept. A network distributed across dozens of locations, spanning hundreds of thousands of square kilometers, cannot be neutralized in a single campaign. To destroy it, comprehensively, you would need to strike simultaneously at hundreds of confirmed and suspected sites, hold them under continuous attack to prevent reconstruction, and do so against facilities where even the most powerful available munitions cannot reach the operational core. That precise combination of challenges is exactly what the United States encountered between June 2025 and the ceasefire of 2026. The flagship facility, whose geology defines the fundamental challenge, is the Yazd base, buried inside Shirkuh Mountain in central Iran, at a confirmed depth of approximately 500 meters, or 640 feet. All underground. Shirkuh Mountain is composed of Shirkuh granite, one of the densest and hardest igneous rock formations on the planet, a material capable of withstanding extraordinary compressive pressure far beyond the tolerance of reinforced concrete. Inside Shirkuh Mountain, according to intelligence assessments and defense analysis reviewed by the Daily Mail and multiple Western research institutions, there exists not a bunker in any traditional sense, but a functioning underground operational complex. An automated internal rail system connects missile assembly areas to long-term storage depots. 2. Concealed launch ramps that exit through the natural rock face of the mountain at multiple points, some disguised as natural geological features, others concealed beneath earthworks and vegetation. Launcher trucks carrying fully assembled ballistic missiles can receive a firing order, travel the internal network, exit through a concealed ramp portal, elevate the missile to launch angle, complete a firing sequence, and withdraw back inside the mountain, potentially within a window of 20 to 40 minutes. The missiles are stored vertically in ready-fire magazines in some sections and horizontally on mobile platforms in others, designed to allow rapid successive launches without crane operations. IRGC Aerospace Force Commander Amir Ali Hajizadeh, describing an earlier reveal of a missile complex, called what was shown the tip of the iceberg of the Guard's military capability. Given what is documented, that framing appears credible. The weapons inventory stored across these facilities constitutes the full operational range of Iran's ballistic missile and cruise missile arsenal. The March 2025 state media video revealed in one facility alone K-Bar Shekan medium-range ballistic missiles with a range of approximately 1,450 kilometers, enough to reach Israel, Saudi Arabia, and all U.S. bases in the Gulf. Ghadr H, extended range variants capable of reaching targets across the broader Middle East. Sejil, two-stage solid-fuel ballistic missiles, representing Iran's most advanced indigenous propulsion technology, capable of launch within minutes because they require no fueling. Haj Qassam, surface-to-surface missiles named after the assassinated IRGC Quds force commander, and Pave land attack cruise missiles with demonstrated precision strike capability, used operationally in multiple attacks on Israel. All were visible, loaded on mobile transporter erector launcher trucks, stored in continuous open tunnel corridors. A configuration that defense observers at the war zone noted contains a significant embedded vulnerability. Missiles stored without full blast isolation between tunnel sections could, if a deep penetrator successfully reached and detonated inside the interior, trigger catastrophic chain reaction secondary explosions through the stored munitions inventory. The vulnerability is real. It is also moot if the penetrator cannot reach the interior. And as the 2026 campaign demonstrated, reaching the interior of a 500-meter granite mountain with any currently available conventional munition is not achievable. February 28, 2026. Operation Epic Fury begins. B-2, Spirit stealth bombers, each aircraft representing more than $2 billion in procurement cost. Fly intercontinental. Missions from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and strike hardened Iranian ballistic missile facilities. On March 1st, CENTCOM formally confirmed strikes on hardened underground Iranian ballistic missile sites. Munitions include GBU-31 2,000-pound penetrator bombs with hardened steel cases, BLU-109 bunker-busting penetrators, and, for the most deeply buried confirmed targets, the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator itself. The campaign represents the most intensive conventional attack on underground military infrastructure in recorded history. It is also, against the deepest and most geologically hardened Iranian facilities, fundamentally insufficient to the depth of the problem. The GBU-57 demands precise technical description because understanding its capability and its limits is the key to understanding the campaign's strategic outcome. The weapon is 20 feet long, weighs 30,000 pounds, and carries approximately 5,300 pounds of AFX 757 insensitive high explosive. It is GPS guided with inertial navigation backup. It is carried exclusively by the B-2 Spirit. No other aircraft in operational service anywhere in the world can deploy it. It was developed over 15 years specifically to address deeply buried hardened targets, with the Fordo enrichment facility near Qom explicitly named in its development requirements. Its penetration capability, approximately 200 feet through reinforced concrete at optimal impact angles or in hard, competent rock. Substantially less, roughly 60 feet through granite. Against Shirku granite at 500 meters depth, the GBU-57 cannot physically reach the operational chambers where the missiles and launchers sit. It can collapse tunnel entrances. It can destroy surface infrastructure and crater access roads. It cannot touch a ballistic missile stored 1,140 feet inside a granite mountain. The weapon that cost 15 years and billions of dollars to engineer for exactly this class of target was built to penetrate 200 feet. The mountain was built to operate at 1,640 feet. That gap is not a failure of execution. It is a limit of physics that Iran's engineers understood before they broke ground. The Safa mountain complex, south of Isfahan, became the most intensively documented case study in this strategic tension. Defense Security Asia's May 2026 analysis confirmed nearly 20 separate strike packages against Safi Mountain, B-2 deliveries of GBU-57 MOPs and B-52 sorties with penetrator munitions. Despite repeated direct impact on multiple tunnel entrances and buried logistics corridors, the complex never remained offline longer than approximately 12 hours before satellite imagery detected resumed operational activity from the same mountain zone. 12 hours. Round-trip bomber missions of thousands of miles. Munitions expenditure potentially reaching hundreds of millions of dollars. Functional again? Before the next mission cycle could return. Facing this reality, American and Israeli planners shifted to a siege strategy, collapse and block the tunnel entrances. Even if the launchers and missiles inside survived intact, sealing the exit points would prevent those weapons from being driven out, elevated, and fired. The logic was sound. The problem, as the post-ceasefire satellite record made brutally clear, is that sieges can be lifted. Iran had prepositioned construction and excavation equipment near its missile complexes as an explicit, doctrinally planned component of Missile City operations. During active hostilities, U.S. and Israeli aircraft specifically targeted that digging equipment to slow reconstruction. Iranian personnel were killed clearing rubble from blocked tunnel entrances under active air threat. The digging continued regardless. By April 15, 2026, with a nominal ceasefire technically in effect, commercial Airbus imagery showed at least 10 heavy construction vehicles working at Khomeini, methodically extracting collapsed rock from blocked entrances. By May 31st, CNN's full investigation confirmed 50 of 69 struck tunnel entrances cleared at 18 facilities, with access roads repaved at a minimum of 2 locations. U.S. intelligence estimated Iran retained over 75% of its missile launchers fully available. The Wall Street Journal's July 2026 satellite review found Iran rebuilding missile bases in Dezful, struck in June 2025 and again in March 2026, at a pace that sustained strategic deterrence. Iran had also restarted drone production during the ceasefire. The dwindling U.S. interceptor missile stockpile, C, THAAD, Patriot PAC-3, Standard Missile 3, was flagged by CNN analysts as a compounding concern. You can resupply bombs on a manufacturer's timeline, but replenishing interceptor inventory against industrial-scale drone and missile production in active conflict has no quick solution. Let us be precise about what the 2025-2026 campaign against Iran's underground missile infrastructure actually demonstrated. The United States Air Force, deploying its most capable stealth bombers on intercontinental missions of extraordinary technical complexity, dropping the most powerful non-nuclear penetrating munitions in existence against targets, those munitions were specifically designed over 15 years to defeat, struck Iranian missile complexes repeatedly over 5 weeks of sustained operations. Iran kept launching throughout, rebuilt during the ceasefire, and emerged with the majority of its missile launcher inventory intact, its Missile City doctrine validated, and its strategic confidence, by all observable indicators, unbroken. That is the most significant real-world data point on the limits of conventional air power against underground fortification that any military establishment on Earth has ever been given to study. The implications radiate outward in every direction of the strategic compass. North Korea has maintained one of the world's most extensive underground tunnel networks for decades, with independent estimates running into thousands of kilometers across the Korean peninsula, north. Korean state media ran favorable analysis of the campaign's results. China has been systematically expanding its underground military infrastructure since the 1990s, including a reported network of ballistic missile tunnels in central China that some Western analysts estimate at over 3,000 miles. In total length, constructed at depths that the GBU-57 cannot reach. Russia's strategic military architecture includes deep underground command facilities and weapon storage, infrastructure of a scale and depth that the Iranian experience directly speaks to. Every one of these programs just received the most detailed, most transparent, most thoroughly documented real-world performance data ever publicly available on one question. Can Western conventional air power destroy underground facilities built deep enough into hard geology? The answer the data provides is no, not permanently, not with currently available munitions, if the facility is built deep enough and distributed enough. The lesson being absorbed in Pyongyang, Beijing, and Moscow is not subtle. Build deeper. Build more redundant entrance networks, pre-positioned construction, equipment for rapid excavation. Accept some entrance damage as the cost of an initial strike and plan to be operational again within hours. Iran proved this doctrine works against the most advanced conventional air force on Earth. The underground arms race just received a definitive result, and the underground side won the first recorded match. For the United States, the conclusion is equally unambiguous. The conventional deep strike toolkit has a physical ceiling against granite at depth, and sophisticated adversaries have now empirically demonstrated they can build above it at manageable cost. Reports suggest, and this remains publicly unconfirmed at this writing, that U.S. planners during the campaign explored sequential GBU-57 strike packages timed to create resonant mechanical stress in granite at depth through cumulative wave interference, exploiting the additive energy of successive detonations rather than the penetration depth of any single weapon. The theoretical basis exists in geophysical engineering literature. Whether it was employed at any Iranian site and what results it achieved, if so, remains classified. What the commercial satellite record shows is that the entrances are cleared, the roads are repaved, the launchers are moving again. The B-21 Raider, the B-2's eventual successor, will face the same fundamental physical constraints against competent granite at hundreds of meters depth. A next-generation bunker-defeating weapon, substantially more capable than the GBU-57, is reportedly in development, but timelines and specifications are classified. What is not classified is the gap between what the current arsenal can do and what the deepest Iranian facilities require to be permanently neutralized. The current picture as of August 7, 2026, a ceasefire that holds on paper and phrase at the edges in practice. The June 14th Memorandum of Understanding did not resolve the nuclear question. Iran's three main nuclear facilities, Fordo, Natanz, Arak, remain non-operational from the strikes, but multiple intelligence assessments placed the nuclear program setback at less than 6 months. Iran's diplomatic position at the Oman talks was to reject any halt to uranium enrichment entirely, expressing willingness only to discuss the level and purity of enrichment, a formulation that Israeli officials described publicly as unacceptable. The Wall Street Journal identified ongoing Strait of Hormuz tensions as the most probable trigger for a resumption of hostilities. Three futures are in contention. Diplomacy finds a narrow path to some monitored enrichment arrangement, possible, but harder to construct in 2026 than 2015 allowed. The ceasefire collapses over the strait or another flashpoint and hostilities resume, this time against an underground missile network that has had additional months of reconstruction and hardening with no change in the physical limits of available munitions. Or Iran uses the reconstruction window to cross a nuclear threshold before any intervention can interrupt the process. That is the scenario that concentrates the most senior minds in the most classified briefing, rooms in Washington, Jerusalem, and Riyadh. The mountain absorbed 20 strikes. The mountain is still standing. The launchers inside it are operational again. The question that no ceasefire document, no Senate testimony, and no press release has answered is this: what happens? The morning that Tehran decides the window is right to demonstrate, once more, from the same mountain that survived 20 strikes, that the arsenal inside is intact and ready, that answer is still being written in real time in satellite passes over the mountains east of Tehran, and in the classified signals, intelligence that tracks launcher movement before any public announcement. The next development in this story may come from a diplomat in Muscat, or it may come from a crater on a mountainside that was supposed to have been closed for good. If this gave you a clearer picture of what actually happened when the world's most powerful conventional bombs met a mountain built specifically to outlast them, hit that like and subscribe. Every week, we go past the press conference and into the operational reality that shapes what comes next. Tell me in the comments, do you think the ceasefire holds, or does this thing restart before the year is out? I read every single one. See you in the next one.